Alright, so we're back, of course, talking about some Final Fantasy VII. We're talking Ever Crisis. Wanted to do like another video, kind of, it's sort of like a news info roundup sort of thing, just kind of covering some other details before the game actually launches in just a few days. One important thing, obviously, when it comes to this game is launch time, which we sort of have, but kind of don't have either. It's weird. What that is that we do have kind of a release time frame. Obviously, the game's coming out on the 7th. We do know for sure that the game's launching worldwide for everybody at the same time. We just don't know like an exact time, which is kind of weird considering the game's about to come out. On August 30th, we got the launch trailer for Ever Crisis, which we of course broke down on the channel, but with the tweets that accompany those trailers on Twitter, obviously, they did specify that there was a worldwide release, which is good. That means like everybody's gonna get to play the game at the same time. Because depending on the game, there can be like midnight local time releases, so people that are ahead of you are going to get access to the game before you, and depending, they can be hours ahead of you, and shit can get spoiled, etc., etc. But we're apparently going to be able to have the game in our hands, everybody, at the exact same time. As is typical when it comes to like Square Enix and Final Fantasy VII specifically, like the Japanese side of things gives us more information, because the Japanese tweet that came out with the trailer gave us significantly more information than the English side of things. So first off, the English tweet says, with the countdown to launch trailer, we've started the countdown to the worldwide launch of Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. The game has evolved since the closed beta as we've addressed much of your feedback. Hope you continue to build excitement towards FF7R as you play Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Whereas the Japanese tweet, obviously it's auto-translated, so it's a little bit rough, but it says, today we'll start the countdown until the release with the release of the launch trailer. Since the release timing is the same all over the world, Japan is scheduled to start on the night of the 7th. FF7R is approaching, but I would also appreciate if you could increase the heat at FF7 Ever Crisis first. We are also reflecting the opinions of closed beta tests, so please wait for the release of each interview at a later date. I mean, there's a couple of differences between both those tweets, but the main one being that like the English side of shit just completely omits like the time frame of release, because they both do say that the game's coming out worldwide for everybody, right? Same time. But obviously the Japanese side of things says that it's going to come out nighttime in Japan on the 7th, which gives us a decent time frame of when it could release. Now, it depends on what they mean by nighttime, of course. I think, generally speaking, nighttime is considered about 9 p.m. For me, Japan is like 14 hours ahead, so like when it's like, say, 9 p.m. in Japan, that'd be 7 a.m. for me, right? So that might be when it releases. That's just a rough estimate. Like, you know, nighttime for them could be 9 p.m., but maybe a little more, a little less. I don't exactly know. Another sort of possibility is for like the last couple weeks or whatever, they've been dropping shit on Twitter at like 9 p.m., right? But more recently, they've been putting out tweets at 9 a.m. as well. At least like for me, it's 9 a.m. And maybe, and when it's 9 a.m. here, it's 11 p.m. in Japan. Maybe that's another possibility. That'd be obviously pretty late for Japan time. But that's just another kind of guess. I really don't know. Again, that's why it's such a strange situation. We have this pretty anticipated mobile game that's going to be launching worldwide for everybody at the exact same time. But we don't know what that time is. Like, we don't have a confirmation yet. That might happen. We still have like, 2 days technically, sort of. Obviously, we're going to put out a tweet at some point today at like 9 p.m., right? So maybe tonight they'll announce an actual time. Maybe tomorrow on the 6th at 9 p.m. for me, they'll put out a tweet that says an exact time of when the game's releasing. But still, like, why wouldn't you announce that already? It's kind of weird that we don't actually know that. Like, it'd be nice to know like when all of us can expect to actually download and play the game. Like, it's weird we don't know that. But yeah, nighttime Japan. That's kind of all we have to go off right now. So if you know like your time zone versus Japan time, you can kind of get sort of a rough estimate of when you can maybe expect to download and play Ever Crisis. Hopefully they give us a concrete time frame here pretty soon. That was honestly kind of the main focus of the video. I just want to give you guys a rough idea of when you can maybe download and play this game. The other thing I want to talk about was actually a screenshot from the game that I put on Twitter yesterday of a location that is either the Temple of the Ancients or a different location that it should be based off the Cetra, because the ruins look like the Temple of the Ancients. Right here we have this screenshot from a section of the story with this location that very much resembles Temple of the Ancients. Now obviously it looks more expanded for like a modern interpretation. It's not just one singular building. And we throw up a picture of like Temple of the Ancients on screen as well. You can see like the comparisons are pretty damn similar, but I don't know if that's what this is meant to be. The confusion comes in for me is that we got a story synopsis a little while back that said that the story was taking place on like an isolated island far south of Midgar, and I took that as like the Medial kind of Benor area, right? That's very far south of the map. But the fact that we're seeing like what appears to be ancient ruins, it's either actually going to be the Temple of the Ancients, which itself is also on like an isolated island, or that there's going to be ancient ruins on like this island where the first soldier story is taking place on the very far south around the Medial Benor area. Now, the two, I'm not really sure which one I like more, because I'm kind of 50-50 on it, because when it comes to like the Temple of the Ancients and like that location, which is called like the Woodlands area, I don't know how much that's appeared in the lore. Outside of the original FF7, when we go there for the Temple of the Ancients quest, I don't know if there's ever been like missions, or like Shinra goes there, or like the Turks go there like before Crisis, or whatever the fuck. I don't know that it's even in the expanded lore that much. So it'd be kind of nice to have like a quest or story that takes place there with First Soldier to give a more emphasis to the location. But at the same time, I've always said that I wanted more from the Ancients, from the Cetra when it comes to the FF7 story, especially with the remake project. And it'd be kind of nice if like there's a different island that we go to with First Soldier, and like there's ruins for the Cetra there to show that they've been all over the world, because they're supposed to be stewards of the planet that travel the globe and shit. And we really only have like one location, the original Final Fantasy VII, where they were. I guess you have the Forgotten Capital as well, obviously, but I just mean like we have this one ruin, the Temple of the Ancients, and that's it. You don't see like, I don't know, like evidence of the Cetra existing all around the world or whatever the fuck. Actually talking about it out loud and shit now, I kind of fall in the latter camp. I would almost prefer this to be a completely different like Cetra ruin, or maybe just a completely different ruin in general. And maybe that's something we're going to see with the remake project. We do see some ruins a little bit with like this Summer Game Fest trailer, because there's one of the earlier shots of the trailer, you can see some ruins in the distance, and then a little bit later we see our group riding the chocobos through a ruin. And I didn't really put a lot of emphasis on that, but that could be like a Cetra ruin, like a different one, like completely different from like the Temple of the Ancients, and that'd be kind of cool. By the way, I think it'd be pretty safe to assume that this location itself is Cetra in some way. Now, whether it's actual Temple of the Ancients or a new location entirely, that remains to be seen. Now, if it is Temple of the Ancients, it gives us a decent idea of what it might look like with like the remake project, right? What it might look like at Rebirth, where it shouldn't just be one big ass temple standing above the forest like you see on like the world map and shit. There should be multiple different like buildings, kind of like what you're seeing here, right? That makes more sense. And if it is Temple of the Ancients, again, this is a little bit of a sneak peek, kind of cool. But I have also gone back and looked at like the character trailers for like Glenn, Matt, and Lucia that we hadn't discussed yet, and there's not really anything to derive from them. But speaking of this like ancient temple potential, whatever, there is like one scene in like the Matt trailer where you do see them like outside of what appears to be those ruins. So it gives us like another potential look at either the Temple of the Ancients or a closer look at a completely different Cetra location. What else is kind of exciting too about the launch of Ever Crisis is we've never had confirmation from Square Enix whether or not the game itself was going to launch with all the chapters for the FF7 story specifically. We did the video and talked about that report like a lot, and we kind of ran with the information for a while, but it has never been officially confirmed, and I'm wondering if that's going to be the case. Are they going to mention it? Is it going to launch with all the chapters and they just don't say that, or is it going to launch and just have like the first couple of chapters? We've seen as far as like Calm Flashback stuff in the trailers. We know the Midgar segment is supposed to be like 3 chapters, but Calm Flashback shouldn't tell us that it's going up to at least 4 chapters. I don't know. It'll be very, very interesting. And if it does, we're going to get things spoiled, right? Because even if the location that we're looking at right there is not the Temple of the Ancients, we're going to see the Temple of the Ancients in the Ever Crisis game at some point, but it may not be what Remake's version looks like, because they're kind of sticking to the OG FF7 in terms of like art direction on certain things. Obviously in combat things look a little bit different, but they're taking liberties with like the out of combat stuff. And we've seen like Motorball is called Motorball within the trailer, but he's called like Motor in Remake. So I don't know. It's such a weird like mix of things. I said before in like recent videos, I'm just excited to have some FF7. That's the other thing. I'm just counting down the days. We're almost there finally. In terms of content creation, I don't know exactly what we're going to do, because I've never like made videos for mobile games on my channel like ever, so I don't know how to exactly like hook this shit up and like record, or I might just do like emulation and do like either BlueStacks or like an LD player or whatever might work, and maybe just play the game twice, like maybe play it on my phone for me, and then like play like a second time doing certain shit on the computer, so I can just like screen record my computer because I know how to do that shit, and just record and make videos with that. I don't exactly know. We'll figure it out as we go. We're learning together. Anyway, that's going to be the video, my dude. Subscribe to me if you guys are new. Social networks in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, @YT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain, or leave it like Cobain.